With the best record and a commanding lead of 77 more points for than the second highest team, it's time I finally place this team on top. As of right now, Zeke is still able to play, and with the appeal occurring on Thursday, we might not even know the outcome until next week, giving Jerry Jones another week of smash-mouth football. The league is praying the judges make the right decision and suspend Zeke, because if the ruling comes next week and he is suspended, that means this team is without their best player for the rest of the year, breaking the playoffs wide the fuck open. After a grueling investigation of every team in the league, there just wasn't a good enough resume out there to drop this team any further. I really wanted to, because this is easily the weakest second-ranked team we've had to date. On paper, this team looks good, but soon it might be time to hit the panic button. Since losing to Verde 5 weeks ago, this club is yet to top 86 points. 86! After being in the top 4 and scoring the entire season, this organization has suddenly dropped all the way down to 9th. I've given this team plenty of passes, and this is the final one. One more fuck-up this week, even with Kareem on a bye, and this team will plummet down the rankings. Following the complete opposite path of the team I just talked about, this squad has been red hot as of late. Although some of those high-scoring outputs haven't resulted in wins, it's still very impressive that this team has put up at least 118 points in 4 out of the last 5 weeks, resulting in this group rising to the second highest scorer. If it weren't for a 3-game stretch where they played the highest-scoring team twice and the second highest-scoring team once, this squad's record would look a little better, probably a lot better. The Spiders are clearly the favorite to grab the 8th spot right now, and if they keep putting up points, the seeding they grab might be a little higher. The Zach Ertz last-second injury report was just a cherry on top to a brutal week this team endured. With McKinnon and Keenan on a bye, Ertz and waiver pickup Jamison Crowder injured, and the Zeke ruling leaving Alfred Morris irrelevant, it's impressive that this organization was just one Robert Woods fuck-up away from bringing the win streak to 5. Still, this team sits only 2 points back of the second highest scoring team, and with a couple of starters coming back from a bye, the future looks promising. The final score looked ugly, but that isn't a good representation of what this team is. Brady is back from a bye, and we can assume Leonard Fournette won't be missing any more team photos, making this team a threat to go off any week. But this team is top-heavy. Dez has looked good the past few weeks, but he isn't a dominating wide receiver 1 anymore, and the rest of the receiving core doesn't make up for that fact. With Greg Olsen out another few weeks, this group is going to look for its top 3 to carry it forward. Yes, this team has the second best record in the league, and it is the defending champion. But honestly, this team just isn't that good. Big Ben blows. Amir Abdullah is trying his best to lose his starting job with 2 fumbles last night. T.Y. had his first game of over 3 points in 4 weeks. And Marvin Jones, I just don't buy yet. LaShawn McCoy and Alex Smith are good, I'll give you that. But I'm not scared of this team. Due to the other 2 teams not pretending to be as good like this one is, there is now only one fake ID in fantasy football, and it's these guys. It was an impressive blowout win against a team that's been ranked number 1 for the entire season. But I'm not going to be a prisoner of the moment. However, there are some good glue pieces here. Drew Brees and Carlos Hyde look good, Julio's becoming more consistent, and Evan Engram is a top-tier tight end now. But then there's guys I don't trust. Marquise Lee and Larry Fitzgerald are 2 of those guys. And then there's Jay Ajayi. Don't let that last game fool you. Ajayi going to the Eagles is not a good thing. There are now 4 weapons in that backfield that the Eagles want to use, and they want to use all of them. Also, the only reason he had a good game last week is because of that 140-yard touchdown run. But speaking of that run, let's take a look at it. There is not one single impressive thing he did on this run. In fact, the one thing he did do was unimpressive. He doesn't run around anyone. He doesn't run through anyone. He doesn't make a move on anyone. There's just great blocking, and he just ran straight. So the only thing we can see from this clip is his speed. And holy shit, does he look slow. Look how slow he looks. This team thinks of him as a solid RB2, and I think that mindset will greatly hurt him. I don't consider this team one of the fake IDs anymore because it isn't pretending to be what it's not. This is not a powerhouse team that's going to string together 3 or 4 wins. What it is just a tough, nose to the grindstone type of team. They don't blow anyone out, but also they don't get blown out themselves. In the past 5 weeks, they're averaging exactly 100 points, which is extremely fitting for this group. You know exactly what you're getting from this team week in and week out. No blowouts, no fuck-ups. That's the model this team has followed all season long, and the one it will continue to follow until the end. This team has put together many impressive performances, but at the same time, it's looked very inconsistent. In the last 5 weeks, its scoring totals have been 59, 133, 115, 83, 131. Sitting at 3-6, this group might need a win out to ensure a playoff seed. If this team can figure out its Jekyll and Hyde dilemma, it has a good chance of doing that, with only one difficult matchup left, the last week against the Commissioner. You know, all I see on this team is Antonio Brown, Dak Prescott, and a bunch of meh. This team is going to need some boom or bust magic from a lot of its players in the next few weeks. Following the theme of the entire year, this team seems to get matched up with one of the top 3 scoring teams every single week. As the first team to top 1,000 points against, it's no shocker this team sits at 2-7. But it can smile knowing it still has more points for the next team on this list, and it just beat them a week ago. It was a depressing week for this team, as it appeared to the fan base that this front office had lost all desire to win. In a must-win scenario, this team decided to trade for a running back on a bye and a receiver playing with a backup quarterback. Oh, and they just threw in a quarterback for fun. Astonishingly, this team didn't crumble under the scrutiny of the entire league, but instead went out and put up its second highest score of the year. It was probably one of the more impressive feats of the season. However, it was probably an outlier. This is more of a feel-good story than a sign of things to come. So this team keeps steady in the spot, bottoming out the rankings.